Welcome to Singapore, where Asia's cultures collide and thrive. This is the perfect setting for the FIDE World Championship 2024. This year we witness a historic clash, India versus China, two chess powerhouses battling in a city that celebrates their shared heritage.
To 14 classical games that can last up to 7 or even 8 hours, with a time control of 120 minutes for the first 40 moves, followed by 30 minutes for the rest of the game with 30 seconds increment added from move 41 and on. Only one game is played per day, with rest days after game 3, 6, 9, and 12. The player who first scores 7.5 points or more wins the title. If the match is tied 7-7 after 14 games of classical chess, the match goes to playoff. Regardless of how the match is decided, it's bound to be a treat for chess fans worldwide.
And Judith, what must be going through the players' minds right now? You mentioned that Gukesh is new to match play, so this is going to be quite fresh to him. Really interesting to see how he takes the psychological pressure.
Well, I think if somebody can take the psychological pressure at the age of 18, it is Gukesh, and has to make a choice. First of all, of course, it's not an easy thing to handle something when you're surprised, because Ding must be thinking, well, okay, now maybe they are already in game 1, because there are so many opportunities here.
We see just the pure concentration, the focus that was most recently Judith on display at the Olympiad.
It was, and he is playing in these tournaments from the very beginning until the very end. We have a move. A5.
Indeed. And that is what Hamdouchi, Hisham Hamdouchi, the Moroccan Grandmaster, played against you, Judith, the other time that you faced this line. A5 expanding on the queen side, and very likely this move will be followed with A4. So this was on my radar. It is not the most popular move. It's actually, I would say, 5th or 5th or 6th in popularity. It is quite rare to keep looking at this position, but just felt the need to point out he has just made the move Queen A5. So the other square, right? We called for H5. He put something on A5. Bishop G2. So he makes one of the moves that allows C takes D4 and improves the position. And by the way, short castles. I think we've kind of...
Move are in. Move 14.
Yeah, it's not a science to determine when that transition happens, but pacing.
Well, Ding was a player who was definitely a clear candidate to become a world champion. I remember when Magnus was talking about him quite a lot, that he is the person he will be playing with probably.
But they took that match just as seriously as any other match. They worked just as hard, and you know, you don't achieve those kinds of results by accident. And Gukesh is, I think, the spiritual leader, but right now everybody takes a back seat.
It is a very special pawn structure, and it's also a big question how the G4, F4 pawns will perform. How aggressive are they going to be? Oh, you had the time, you have a great advantage of time, so think if this is really the best move. So he could afford spending that time. And
to focus on the queen side, so you want to go Queen D3.
I'm afraid for black, if black goes G5, which you know that it's my weak spot.
About clock management, actually, but about momentum. We were doing a little bit of digging into the statistics, and we were taking a look at the winners of World Championship matches.
We thought a big-time advantage, comfortable middle game, a space advantage, clear plan of action on the king side, and Gukesh has played F5, but the bishop... Does black even move the bishop?
Bishop F4. Bishop F4.
Even bishop takes H4 should be calculated.
White side.
If only king H1 was played, then he'd have bishop G1 here.
Finally,
Queen B1. Huge moment for Ding right now.
Well, by move 40, we will know what is going to be, I think, this game. There is a very good chance for that.
We aren't even...
This position, another 13 moves to go. It seems a little bit much.
Wow.
Controlling the D3, D1 squares.
Well, here we go.
F takes
F6 has been thrown in. And we're going to get the position before Queen H7, but obviously Queen H7 is not mandatory in a move like Queen E1, Judith, or maybe a better activation of the Queen.
Or Queen C taking.
Oh my gosh. And Queen C2, he has played it in the wrong order and allowed Queen C4.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. And indeed, Queen C4, maybe he is overestimating the endgame. Maybe he's relying on the dark squares.
But in the endgame,
it's not
you
over.
have 2 pawns down.
Dark squares, just imagine sitting there. You're Ding. You know you're that close to winning your first game in over 300 days. The first game in the World Championship match.
But let's face it.
I can't even watch this. This is peak tension.
But let's face it, he has a good sense of timing.
Gukesh isn't where he is by going down to the whimper.
Well, some chances still.
So what's the move? If it's not Rook F1 and E5. Isn't that game over? He's played it just as you speak. And the cherry on top, 30 seconds for Gukesh. Bishop E4 is coming. There's no move. Everything's collapsing. There just is no move. Bishop G3 tried. Bishop B4 will happen.
2 pawns down. Activity for black.
King H2 maybe. And he's played it and trying to go Bishop H3. Still keeping some chances alive. But I think they're phantom chances. What's the finishing touch now for Ding? Don't play Bishop takes G2. You can't mate it in one move. 10 seconds, Judith. Gukesh has to make 2 more moves. He doesn't see what to do. He's got 5 seconds. He might lose on time. He's played Bishop H3. But Queen D1 should end the game.
Uh-oh.
Queen D1 ends the game. Before the time control. Tries Bishop D6. That's White's 40th move. What's the easiest win, Judith? Is it Queen H1 and D4, or do you simply go for the A2 pawn?
Well, it's tempting. I would go for the... why not to take that pawn?
Bishop B6. You have a hiding spot. I think that must be the simplest. 90 seconds now to make the final move. You called it a long time ago. Look at the time management for Ding. He's left himself with a perfect amount of time to find what is likely to be the final move of the game. If he can choose a surgically precise path, but that doesn't seem difficult.
I mean, it's possible to take the pawn, right?
And that's the thing. There's no need to calculate. But then Bishop E6 and Queen takes C4 at the end. You have to see Queen F2 check.
And to go to H8, not to H7. So it's not a check.
Precisely. And we see just that on the board. Should I put this on the board really quickly?
It's move 41. So Ding will think now.
I'm not even sure he will. He might just be too excited.
But that's not the right approach, generally speaking, right?
Especially given the fact that he has to see, first of all, not Queen H7, Queen takes C4 check, but King H8 so that this isn't a check, so that you have this move, Queen F2 check, getting the queen out of the pin. We've got to tip our hat to Gukesh. I mean, he has exhausted every resource, and even when there were no resources, he still forces Ding to stay on his feet. But the guy was just too precise. This has been unbelievably impressive technique.
These moments are extremely frustrating for a chess player when you feel that you could do better. You did something because somehow it went out of control. And of course, it's a different story, World Championship match, as Henrik, Magnus's father, just said a few days ago in an interview that you cannot be prepared for game one in a World Championship match. And I hear this in my ear that it must be true. It must be true. And the whole atmosphere of a World Championship match. And we have a score. Liren wins the first game.
He has defeated Gukesh, the reigning world champion, with the black pieces in the first game of the 2024 FIDE World Championship. Gukesh will have to take inspiration from Magnus, who was a point down against Sergei Karyakin. But the journey uphill begins as early as game 2. Ding will have the white pieces Judith. What a statement win. Oh boy, will this be discussed. But Gukesh has to discuss it with his team. But tomorrow he has to come and deliver for a second game. Absolutely incredible, John Sargent.
That was a wild ride from start to finish, watching from over here. Danya, Judith, incredible.